Okay, so we will have the pleasure today of talking with Pia Hollenstein. She's one of the members of the KlimaSeniorinnen, which is a Swiss organization that was able to win an amazing victory for climate justice in Europe. But before introducing her, I don't know if the project coordinator have arrived. No, okay, so we'll continue. Just to let you know, this is part of a European project. This dialogue. The name of the project is the Climate Justice Living Lab, and we hope to conduct more dialogues in the future. So I will remind you at the end, but stay tuned to future events. And today, in this first web talk, we're going to talk about the fight for climate justice through legal action. Okay, so a specific pathway for climate justice. And we will explore a remarkable case, as I said before, a case brought to European Court of Human Rights, which, just for your information, is a tribunal based in Strasbourg that is responsible for ensuring that member states of the Council of Europe, not the European Union. The members of the European Union are also members of the Council of Europe, but it's a pan-European organization formed by 46 states. So the responsibility of the European Court of Human Rights is to ensure that the rights and freedoms of the European Convention of Human Rights are respected, okay, in this territory. So we're going to talk about a case brought to this European court. And before introducing our guest today, I'm going to introduce myself. I will be the moderator of the dialogue. And my name is Ana Garcia Juanate. I'm a professor at the Center for International Studies, which is a center affiliated to the University of Barcelona. I'm a political scientist with a PhD in law, but I'm not a lawyer, important points. And my research interest focus specifically on the relationship between human rights and the environment, okay? And most importantly, we have with us today Pia Hollenstein. She worked as a nurse and a teacher in nursing in Switzerland. She has a Master of Advanced Studies in Applied Ethics from the University of Zurich, and later served also as an education officer. And also importantly, she was a member of the Swiss National Council for 14 years, representing the Green Party. And throughout her career, Pia always advocated for an ecological, social, feminist, and peaceful future. And since retiring in 2014, she has co-founded and serves on the board of the Swiss Senior Women for Climate Protection Organization, the KlimaSeniorinnen. Okay, so Pia, I welcome you to the meeting. How are you today?
Thank you. Welcome to everybody.
Great. Nice. Okay, so just before starting the dialogue and giving the floor to Pia, I just would like to briefly explain this case to the public, because maybe not all of you know it. So first of all, the KlimaSeniorinnen is an organization composed primarily of Swiss women. It gained international recognition for their groundbreaking legal action because this organization brought a case first to the Swiss government for the lack of ambition of this country for its climate policies. And after Swiss courts dismissed their claims domestically, this organization appealed to the European Court of Human Rights, arguing that Switzerland's insufficient action on climate change violated the rights under the European Convention of Human Rights, especially the right to life, given that older people, particularly older women, are more vulnerable to heat waves and extreme weather events. So the fame of this organization surged particularly in April 2024 because the European Court ruled in their favor, marking in history the first time this court recognized state obligations on climate change under human rights law. Okay, so this is a very important, remarkable case. Okay, so this case will be the basis of our dialogue, because I think it's really important for, the climate justice movement in general. And now we're gonna start finally. So Pia, first of all, I would like to ask you, I mean, what inspired you personally to co-found this organization, this KlimaSeniorinnen organization?
Yes, we founded it because I have been in parliament and we never got majorities in the parliament for important issues like taking more measures against climate change and so on. But it was not my idea. The idea came from Greenpeace. Greenpeace was doing for years and years also like we in the parliament on the left. Switzerland is a right-wing parliament, one has to know. That's why we never get majorities for things like this. So Greenpeace was following all the international claims also. And when the court gave right to the Dutch case, they won. So they thought, what could we do in Switzerland? So Netherlands was the point, because in Netherlands the NGO there won. So Greenpeace tried to find out how can we do it that we reach something in Switzerland, and it was quite clear. They did a research, and that came out one has to be much more affected than others. So it had to be a women's group. That was quite important. If we would not have been much more affected during heat waves, we would not have won, and we wanted to win. So Greenpeace said, then it's the best. We find old elderly women over 64 to build an NGO, and I'm in that NGO on the board from the beginning on. That's 9 years ago now.
Okay, thank you. Very interested. So, and I want to ask you also about the process, because I mean, the European Court of Human Rights is famous to, let's say, take its time to decide its ruling. But I mean, in this case, it was really fast. I mean, for the standards of the European Court, because I mean, as far as I know, it was officially taken, the case, in 2021. And it was finally, the judgment was finally delivered on April 9th, 2024. It was 3 years, pretty fast. So it means that it was an important case, I mean, for the court. So I would like to ask you, during these 3 years, I mean, how you organized and prepared within the organization, I mean, within KlimaSeniorinnen, how did you prepare to face this case?
Yeah. Well, when we brought our case to the human rights in Strasbourg, we already had to go through all the steps, the courts in Switzerland. Otherwise, they would not have the doors. It's not often that a case is accepted. And they thought climate change is a big issue. We have to let them in. So they took us, and so that was the first success we had. The second success was our case was brought to the big chamber. That's not normal, but they knew it's quite important. But you asked about the why. It's simple, because we didn't reach anything in all the steps we did in Switzerland. So that was the only one, but I have to be serious. It was not so surprising for us. We knew Swiss government, the Swiss courts are not waiting for us. So they refused it with bad arguments. So it gave us the chance to go to the European Court of Human Rights. That was we expected it. One day we will come to the Human Rights Court. So
great. Okay, so I'm not a lawyer, as I said. You're not a lawyer, but I mean, I would like to ask you, in your own words and without all the legal jargon, could you explain to the audience what was the outcome of the case? I mean, particularly on what grounds the European Court justified that actually Switzerland had failed to meet its climate obligations?
Our big question, which had to be cleared, was, is it violating human rights if a country doesn't do enough to protect people, in our case, elderly women, because we are much more affected? Is it a human rights violation if it does? Because we said it is. And the outcome was climate protection is a human right. Climate protection has to be done by the government. It's the duty to protect. And they found out, or they had to reckon, we knew it already, this protection is not sufficient. And another quite big thing was that they came to the decision that NGOs can also demand climate protection. That was quite something. We didn't have it so in our mind. That was not the intention. But because in Switzerland they refused without having one question, without having us for a talk, nothing. And that's a law, an international human rights law, that one has to hear, to listen to those who claim. So that's quite important, even if it's not in the newspapers, because that helps NGOs in other countries to bring their issue, also climate issue, to Strasbourg. That's quite something. And one big outcome is, well, that's always in the Council of Europe, that this verdict, this Urteil, how to say, is valid for all the countries for all those countries who belong to the Council of Europe. That's quite something. So that's the main thing. It is historic because it's the first case that had to clear if human rights are broken or fulfilled if a country doesn't do enough. Because it is broken, Switzerland doesn't do enough. It has to, then we have the whole paper in the whole verdict, which is complicated, more than 200 pages, but it helps other countries, it helps other NGOs in Austria, wherever, and they can claim as well. So,
this is a very important point, right? Because normally to be able to go to an international court of human rights, I mean, you have to prove that one of your personal rights have been violated. But in this case, I mean, one of the outcomes is that NGOs also can have legal standing, to go to these courts. So I think this is a very important outcome in terms of climate justice and the climate justice movement. So, I mean, Pia, a more personal question. You made history with this ruling. So how did you personally react to the ruling and your organization? I mean, do you remember, for instance, where you were when you realized that you won? I mean, how did you react to that?
Well, of course, we were in Strasbourg at that time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Board and a group of members of the KlimaSeniorinnen, we went there 2 days before. We had to prepare something yet with the lawyers and so on. So we were there. We didn't have a clue how much we would win. If we would win, we didn't know. We had some strategies. If we win that little, what are we going to say? If we win a little bit more, or if we win a lot. And we won a lot. We didn't expect to have such a good result like we expected, or it should be. But one has to say, the council take it very serious. They said, okay, climate change is a big problem. We have to take it seriously. It didn't go just to the small chamber. It has been discussed in the big chamber. That was also a big success. And it was at the end, I guess there was one vote against all the others, but it was so good, founded, explained in the judgment that it was just clear. Yeah.
Great. And yeah, I mean, the bad news is that, as it happens often after the victory, this kind of victories, it comes the backlash, right? So in this particular case, it came from Swiss institutions because, for instance, the Swiss government criticized very heavily the ruling of the court, particularly they say the broad interpretation of the European Convention, arguing that it should not extend to climate protection. And also the Swiss Parliament, I think also they had a motion in 2024 declaring that the ruling was a form of judicial activism. Okay, so there was like a heavy critic by the Swiss institutions. So, I mean, how did you react? I mean, your organization and also, I mean, the movement in Switzerland to this backlash. I mean, how did you react? How did you mobilize against that?
I have to say at this point, when I was in Parliament until 20 years ago, whenever was a decision from the Human Rights Court, all of the parties would say, we do it in a very short time and quick. Yeah. And that has changed. Which means not only other countries in Europe turned to the right, also Switzerland. They have a big, strong majority in parliament who doesn't want to do more against climate change. So they said, it's not valid for us, we are independent and so on, not knowing, strange, not knowing the decisions from the Human Rights Court you have to fulfill. And it's not up on the country, do you like it or not? But as you said, in the majority in the parliament said, oh, please, our government should write to Strasbourg. We are not going to do it because we do already quite a lot. And that was your question, what did we do? Of course, we protested. We criticized the Federal Council and the parliament. Both had a majority, also in the Federal Council, and explained the facts once again. We have pointed out once again that judgment of the Human Rights Court must be implemented in a binding manner. They didn't want to hear that, but it's the truth. And we are pleased that the human rights organization, many of them in Switzerland, and many law professors have criticized the official Swiss position. That was a kind of good thing for us.
Yeah, I mean, because the government and the parliament question decision of an international court. So, I mean, this is something, I mean, in terms of the whole system of protection of human rights in Europe, I mean, that's something never heard of, I mean, particularly from a country such Switzerland. So it was, yeah, also heavy criticized, I mean, this reaction by human rights scholars in Europe.
But I mean, we are the country with many, many international human rights associations from the United Nations in Geneva.
Yeah.
That's really...
Yeah, I mean, the Red Cross, I mean, the whole humanitarian movement, I mean, it was born, I mean, in Switzerland. So yeah, it's particularly frapping that. But I mean, I wanted to ask you also, because I mean, these tensions and this backlash, sometimes, I mean, they can create also problems within organization and organizations and movements. So, I mean, as a learning experience, how did your organization experience, I mean, the whole legal process? I mean, from the beginning to this backlash we're talking about. I mean, were you able to keep united all the time? Were there tensions? I mean, how did you live through this?
Well, it's true, we didn't expect it that bad. We thought they wouldn't like it, but all of them would now, they have to transform it. Okay, from that point on, we knew our association has to go on. First, we thought, well, we reached the goal, we reached quite a lot, and we can disappear from, from the platform now, but it's not like this. We were surprised that it was so conservative, this decision, and there was just no discussion. We are needed yet. So we go on in a manner we are used. In the meantime, we are the board members, they all stay on, and the association KlimaSeniorinnen Schweiz, we have more than 3,000 members, which means women over 64. So our association is still there. We still like to have more members. So that was what we could do. And we are not in a position that we say, okay, poor association now. We say, we won, you have to do it. It's not our problem, you do it that way. We ask them to do their duty because we won, and that's it. So that's important. We are now the winners. We can tell them what I have to do. I mean, of course, it depends on them and their willing and so, but we are still in the strong position because we won.
Yeah. I think, I mean, in regards to that, I think it would be nice also to talk about the general impact, I mean, of this ruling. I mean, not only the specific legal effects, but also the effects, I mean, on Swiss society. So what has been the reaction of Swiss society to this ruling? Do you think that there's maybe now increased interest around the fight against the climate crisis? I mean, how do you think Swiss society react to that?
Of course, it was quite important we won, but because we won, we had much more publicity in all the media, print papers, TVs, and also in many organizations. Since we won, we have more invitations from churches and from other NGOs. We have many still questions to have a talk or to be in an online talk from countries outside, not just in Europe, in Australia, in Spain, and all. Of course, Spain belongs to the EU, but also to South Africa, Canada, USA. They ask us for a speech because they want to know what it is. Binding, it's for the European countries, but South Korea wants to know what we did and how we won. So it spreads out. That's quite new. It was before a little bit, but since we won, it became a bigger weight. Can you say that in English? Sorry for my English, but we have much more publicity since then. That's what I can say. And many students from other countries, they are writing now their master paper.
Thesis. Ah, wow.
And they ask us for an interview, and they want to find what's the best way and so on. So, and the positive thing was, of course, I dare to say the climate use is a bit down in Europe. Yeah, not so strong anymore. And of course, for them, it was quite important that we won. They have a star on the sky now. And it gave them a bit the push to stick on, to go on, and to fulfill what the Human Rights Court said. So also in that kind of way, it was important we won, and we won so much.
That's a very important point, right? To give also courage to new generations, to keep the fight. So that's also an important part of your fight and this verdict. Okay, Pia, now, looking at the future, what are the next steps of your personal fight for climate justice and also your organizations? What are you doing now and what are the next steps?
Yeah. As I said, we keep staying on. We control in a way, but the official controlling is done by the Human Rights Court, not the court themselves, by the Council of
Ministers, no?
Yeah, a commission of the ministers of the
Council of Europe,
Europe, yes. They have to supervise what Switzerland is implementing, what not. And every 6 months, Switzerland has to send a paper, we are doing this and this and this, why not, and so. And the supervising council will answer them, oh, sorry, it's not that yet, you have to do this and this yet. And we still are here to make public what's going on, what's the fact. Not in a juristic way, but we have to, many do not know, we have to explain to the public what is expected from Switzerland, what we want, and what could be the next step. At the end, I tell you, it only changes if at the next election to parliament, we have more green and socialist left wing. So it's a bit sad, but still, I tell you, my interpretation is, even if Switzerland refuses, it's such a big paper, this judgment, it helps to all the other NGOs in other countries because everything is said there. And those other NGOs in other countries like Austria, they only have to check now what's according to our parliament, and then they can start to claim their parliament and then later on go to the Human Rights Court. So it helps to the problem, even Switzerland wouldn't do a lot. They did a little bit, but very small. They are not motivated to, but one has to say, too bad, but the time is helping us. It will not stop the climate change. In Switzerland, we have big problems, mountains coming down, floods and everything. Today, many would realize they have to do more. I don't know when, but so we try to make public what the facts are. And we also, not with ourselves, we have a film, a movie done by filmers. And this movie tells the whole story. What we are saying now, it's quite a big movie. It will go to the whole world at the end of this year or next year. And that's an important thing, that everybody can hear the message. As an NGO, you have a power. Civil society has the power to work, has the power to reach something. That's our example. You do not have to be in parliament like I was before. It's the civil society who reaches a lot. So that's another thing. We we think it's important, that movie. When it shows the first time in a cinema, we try to go there, and then we have a discussion also. Yeah. So, but that's not your question.
No, but great. I mean, let us know about the movie. It would be great also to disseminate it, I mean, to the social media of the project. So thank you. That's very interesting. Now, I wanted to ask you, this is a very specific question, but I mean, do you know of other similar organization of senior women created in other countries? I mean, did you inspire other group of women to organize such as organization as the one you created?
Well, we are in contact with some different, for a long time, NGOs, some women's organizations, some ecological organizations. And we were in contact with the women's organization in South Korea.
Mm-hmm.
They founded a same or similar association we did, and they claimed at their government, and they won. All elderly women in South Korea copied us, and they won in their country. So there might be some more, or there will be many more this kind of association. I don't know, but South Korea is a positive example. Like,
great.
We were founded because of the Netherlands, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you arrived very far away. Okay, interesting. Okay, I have still a couple of questions, but I think it would be nice now to maybe open the floor to
One
the
thing
public.
I would like to...
Yeah, of course, Pia, go ahead.
Because you want to ask this question, but I think we didn't only win the climate issue. We didn't program it, but we won that the way you look at elderly women has changed. Because we won, many societies would think, oh, elderly women, what's that?
Yeah.
So far, we didn't expect anything from those older women, and now the narrative has changed. They are here, they do something, and they win. So that's quite a big thing also, I think. So.
Yeah, of course. This is a very important point. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so maybe now we can open the floor. So as I said before, I mean, you can either use the chat if you don't want to come out in the video, or you can just raise your hand and activate your mic and your video and ask the question to Pia directly. I think it's a great opportunity to have her here. I mean, so yeah, any questions? I mean, okay, so Nuria, please, you can connect the mic and the video and ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Pia, for all your answers. You mentioned about students now addressing to you, asking for more information about your case. I would like to know more about in this line, like this intergenerational collaboration. Well, if you have any contact with young groups also acting for climate in their countries. Thank you.
Yes, we have quite a big, good contact to some groups of the youth climate groups. For example, we have been last year in Germany for the national youth groups, youth strike groups, or when the climate youth, like here in St. Gallen, in my town, they have a demonstration for more climate protection. Then they asked me or another KlimaSeniorin to have a short speak for 5 minutes. Or they asked us on a national protest action. And the good thing is that's just nothing special, but when the churches invite us for a discussion on a podium, they invite one of the KlimaSeniorinnen and one of the youth. So that's a good exchange. I like it when somebody from the youth groups are invited too. They are much better in the facts. I'm not able to learn how many percentage and how many tons of CO2. And the youth, they just know it, tack, tack, tack. So that's always a good coming together, because we come from a different road, but we have the same goal. So that's I think it's always positive. It's positive for them to listen what the KlimaSeniorinnen want, and it's positive for them to hear what they could do, and it gives them hope somehow that we won, because they know, oh, we shouldn't give up. That's also a fact of our association. You shouldn't give up. You have to stick on, and one day you might win. And that's important for the youth.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pia. More questions? Okay, if you need time to think about questions, maybe I can ask another one. Pia, I mean, related to what you said about the youth, so what advice would you give to other climate litigants, I mean, particularly younger ones, based on what you learned with this process? What advice would you give beyond not lose hope in terms of a strategy or yeah?
Well, from my personal point of view, I must say, sometimes people think, well, in your age, 74, you do all that yet. But I can tell you, it's easier for your mental health to do something than to see how it goes the wrong way. So if you do not stop looking what is in your power, as long as you do that, it makes you stronger, and it gives you the strength and the power. So that's what I'm giving to the young people, if they take it or not. But I guess it's also important for the young people that, because that's their future, that they do not get depressed. So, but your question was different.
No, it was just that. I mean, what kind of advice would you give to young people? And this is very important because, many young people suffer from climate anxiety. So, yeah, it's great. Yeah.
But to have success as a group, like we were, one has to now, you need very competent professional preparation. We would not have one without Greenpeace, without their knowledge. Greenpeace Switzerland is good connected with Greenpeace International, and they have they had and have such a big knowledge. That was the reason, we won. There was a lawyer, a lady from London who was working at the Human Rights Court before. She was so good, so competent. They knew. Our lawyer team, with them, they did such a good job. So you have to have the knowledge, and lay people would not have it enough. That's you have to know. And from my experience, I can say, in which country you ever work or live, it's good to connect with Greenpeace. They would show you, please, there is an NGO, ask them, or so on.
Yeah, that's a very important point, I think, and I would like to stress that. I mean, the importance now of promoting alliances between big environmental organizations such as Greenpeace and maybe smaller ones or activists, and also I think it's important now to support organizations such as Greenpeace, because they are suffering a lot of backlash in many countries such as United States. I mean, they just have to put up now with a huge fine just for helping communities to organize against, in this case, I think it was like oil companies. So, I mean, this is a very important point. I mean, to connect with bigger organizations, to support all kinds of environmental organizations, because I think the environmental movement, I mean, needs a lot of support right now. So, Bea, I think you would like to ask a question. Go ahead.
Yes, it's more like a comment. First of all, I wanted to thank you both because it has been fantastic to listen on what you are explaining. And it's so inspiring also for activists and for young researchers and also for young students. I wanted to share two things. First, that in a class that I'm teaching, we were analyzing your case, Pia. We were also watching the TED Talk that you all made. And I think the students were really, really inspired by that. And they're working a lot on the case, identifying the human rights that the court said that they were violated and so on. And I talk on behalf of them because they were really, really motivated. And I see that some of them are online. So thank you for connecting. And the second thing that I wanted to share is that it's also super inspiring in terms of a feminist view of the climate change and human rights litigation, to see that it's this case, it was inspired and managed by the women like you, Pia, which are like over 60 years old, and it's a group of population which is super vulnerabilized, not vulnerable, but vulnerabilized because of the climate change and the power structures. And then I wanted to share that the last, I think the last 2 weeks, we sadly have a woman who was like 50 years old, and she died because of heat wave when she was working. And when we talk about climate litigation and the special impacts and the power of all of you, I think it's also really relevant to also highlight how also women, and especially women on certain age and on certain jobs, and also when there are intersection of vulnerabilities, are extra affected. So I just wanted to share that. It's not a question, it's just more like a comment, but anyways, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your inspiration in this Webtalk, but also in the case.
Yeah, and one has to know, even if our claim was done by women over 64, because we reached now something, it helps everybody. It helps the children, it helps those with us lung problems and everything. So it's not just for us, but because we wanted to win, we had to find out which is the best road to go there. And because it's proved in many researches, studies, that elderly women suffer more, die more, and so on during heat wave. Men's body have a different possibility to come over.
Yeah, to dissipate heat. Yeah, it's true.
Also, profit. It's not that it's just a women.
Yeah.
It's to help all of them.
Yeah, I think it's not by choice that I see the names of the public, and I think we're all women. So it's interesting too. And I mean, I also teach at the university, and in my master's, students have to choose, I mean, either study environmental things and human rights or other kind of things. And it's in my classes, it's almost like 3/4 are women. So I think we are more prone to, I mean, to this kind of issues, probably because we suffer more. I mean, we're more vulnerable, but also because, I mean, we maybe have more empathy for other people and the natural world also. So I think it's important also as a message to women, younger women and older women, to organize, to politicize, and to try to influence institutions and society. So I think it's also an important point today. Okay, so more questions as we have some minutes.
I like to add,
Pia, please.
Us from Switzerland, for example, other countries too, but from Switzerland, we should not think of us only, because we might survive more than those in the south, missing water, more problems, floods and everything. And then we are upset when many refugees come. They have to. So I guess we as a society have to learn to not find out. We have to learn to see us as one small spot in a globalized world. As long as we do not check that, we won't be saved. It's not so positive, but especially Switzerland, which is a rich country, they have to do more, they should do more, they're supposed to do more. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think it's also an important point, much more connection between, I mean, movements from the global north and the global south, and try to organize, because at the end, I mean, climate change is going to affect us all, but it's important to keep in mind that, of course, vulnerable people are much more prone to climate impacts. And this is also a very important point of your fight here.